what do we really know about what the pets are thinking? How do you differentiate when it is anxiety versus when it's aggressiveness?
Well, I think that most 95% of the time, aggressiveness comes from being anxious.
Okay. Is it okay to let my dog sleep in my bed every night? What's your take on that?
I'm only laughing because I hear that all the time.
Typically, when a owner comes in, all they say is, "Oh, my pet's acting weird." What would that usually mean to you?
It gets my blood pressure up pretty high because they're not taking the time
Yeah.
to, is it a vomiting problem? Is
Yeah.
it not eating? What exactly? You have to help me because we're just
Help me help
down.
you. What are some common misread behaviors that you would say is among pets? How do I know if my pet actually likes me or just likes me for my food?
That is very, very good.
So, welcome back to another episode of Language of Pets podcast. I am your host, Calvin, and I have right next to me Dr. Dan Lange. And today we're going to touch upon a few topics. He has something that he wanted to speak himself on service to pets. And the other topic that I wanted to touch upon is, well, since the last episode, which was about a month ago,
Yep.
we talked about you and your upbringing, your whole life story, and then we also brought in your wife, Susie.
Yep.
We talked about the relationship that you guys have, as well as the relationship you guys have with your pets. And today, instead of speaking on the behalf of humans, we would like to
That's a good
talk a little bit more of, putting ourselves in their shoes, what the pets kind of are thinking when we are interacting with them.
Yep.
So, but yeah, since it's been a month, anything exciting that's happened or going on?
No, things have been good. I work 2 days a week at the local animal hospital. It's called Carter Pet Hospital. Work Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then after Wednesday night, I got done last night, then I decide on my 5-day weekend. So that's my excitement, Thursday through the following Monday.
Okay.
And so,
Do you get to decide when you take vacations?
Well, I haven't really taken it. I've been at Carter about a year and a half now, and we have not taken a vacation. My wife gets a little bit nervous, as we've kind of talked about. We have a bunch of animals, and between the chickens and the horse and all that, it's hard to find good people to take care of it. We've had a couple bad experiences when we were out of town.
Okay.
And so it frustrates me because my next exciting thing for me anyway is to take a cruise on the Mississippi River.
Oh,
I've lived in St. Louis for 40 years, and I lived in Wisconsin and Iowa, and I lived near the Mississippi River, so that river has always kind of intrigued me. And so they do have a 9-day trip from St. Louis. I think it's actually Alton, Illinois, where it starts, and it goes north to the Twin Cities.
Oh, okay.
Up in Minnesota. And so I had some kind of picked out, and then my wife called the lady that she's very comfortable taking care of the animals, and it hasn't jived together yet.
Okay.
So we're trying to work it out. But
Yeah.
my folks have been all over the world. They've been to Antarctica, Europe, Asia, and they just said the Mississippi River was one of the best tours. Part of it may have been because the boats are pretty small. I think they maybe hold 100, 150 people.
So it's
And a lot of the cruise ships hold 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helped.
A little bit more of a
little
quaint
bit.
trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm looking forward to getting that put together.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to discuss with the animal hospital
Oh, so that's
my vacation.
That's the last priority.
Right.
To get everything else sorted out.
Well,
first.
they've been pretty good. They've been very respectful for me. And, as I told 2.5 years ago, I retired, and then a year and a half ago, my wife said I wasn't doing a very good job at home.
Yeah.
So the joke goes, and so they're thrilled, and I'm thrilled. It goes both ways at the animal hospital, so I think they'll be pretty accommodating.
Okay.
Whatever I decide to do on that.
Okay. I never actually knew that there was a tour up and down the Mississippi.
Well, my goal was, and with spouses, you have to compromise, of course. I wanted to go from the Twin Cities all the way down to New Orleans, and that is, I believe, 14 days. And my wife is a nurse, and she probably has a little bit more problem getting away for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
anyway, we kind of compromised, and having lived up in the northern states, I just think the river is prettier the farther north you go. I mean, there's just fewer people in general, and I just think it's more beautiful. And I'm hoping to try to do it this fall as the leaves start to change, and kind of cool in the morning, so it's not too hot.
So what's major cities, or what cities in general would you pass through? Up and
Well,
down?
like going north, I think Hannibal would be one of them. It's a smaller town, but that's where Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn.
That's right.
That's kind of the origin there. We've been there, so maybe if they offer that tour, I don't know if we would do anything having been there, because it's about 75 miles north of us being close to New Melly. And but anyway, most of them are kind of small towns. I lived in a town, Keokuk, Iowa. It's right at the border of Missouri and Iowa, and it's on a bluff. And actually, the river there, the Mississippi River, is wider there than it is in St. Louis.
Oh, nice. You don't expect to be
well, when my
working or
folks took
anything?
it, they got to Keokuk at 2:30 in the morning. So there weren't big crowds meeting the ship, and of course I'm teasing. Everybody was sleeping.
Yeah.
But I think a few of the neighbors that we knew, or they knew at the time, came to greet them at 2:30 in the morning down at the river.
Okay.
At Keokuk.
Okay.
So
you'll take the ferry or the ship.
It's a cruise ship. I mean, it's a small cruise ship. Actually, I think it's a riverboat.
Riverboat.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
what they kind of call it, because it's small. And I think they even have one of the ships or boats is even a paddle boat of some sort to kind of make it seem like the original riverboats 150 years ago that would go up and down the river.
Keep it with the times, rather than having like a full-on yacht going up and down. Cool. And then I'm sure full course meal is provided and all of that. Everything.
Well,
is all
I hate to show how
included.
superficial I am, but I've heard the food's been pretty good.
Yeah.
So I can't say it too out loud, but that's one of the reasons.
Fish and chips, or
Yep. Well, they say it's a culinary cruise. Now, this is the one my wife has kind of gotten together.
culinary.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And see, at first I thought, well, I don't want to go on a ship just to cook. I kind of assumed they were going to give
You're the
cooking
one
lessons.
cooking.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But she gave me the idea that kind of the origins of each port, so to speak, or place we stop at, they offer food kind of unique to that local area. So that's
Okay. So they're catering the food based off of location, rather than having
and this
you
particular
guys.
cruise, or riverboat, that's what they're doing. So I guess that's why it's called a culinary.
Well, okay. Yeah, at first it wouldn't make sense if you're paying them to have you cook your own food.
Right.
Might as well serve them too, right?
Right. Or get a little price off, get a discount.
Yeah, a little bit of discount. I'm sure it's gonna be like they will sell it to you as a 5-day minimum trip, just to squeeze
Just get their money back and all that.
every energy out of you. Right. All right. So let's go straight into what you wanted to talk about today.
Well, I don't know if I had mentioned before, but I'm hoping at the end of the year, I'm writing a book on veterinary medicine.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's at the editor right now. And one reason is they kind of advertise that, of course, but part of it is that one of the articles I'm going to kind of read, and it's an excerpt from the book. Again, I don't know if this is the final Lars part, but anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of read.
Sure.
And so and this is, excuse the expression, but this has always been a pet peeve of mine, to be extra nice to pet owners. I feel like if you own a pet, you have something in common with these people. Mm-hmm. They can experience the trials and tribulations of owning a pet.
Okay.
As an example, real quick, my dad worked for J.C. Penney's, and sometimes if we go on vacation, we go through a town that had a J.C. Penney store. Here we're on vacation, you were like in our young teens, and my dad wants to stop to see the manager or the people at the J.C. Penney store, because he just felt they had similar experiences at the different stores, and he just wanted to talk to these people with his common experience. So anyway, the analogy is with pet owners, and when I kind of read this article, it was more to my fellow veterinarians that I feel like as veterinarians have become much more knowledgeable, educated, skillful with veterinary skills, but I think their human skills are not as good. Part of it may be because a lot of them either text or are on computers. There's less face-to-face contact, in my opinion. in recent years. So here we go. So as I'm starting this article that I wrote, it says that service to pet owners has always been my passion. And most pet owners, they think, if they see a veterinarian, most of us have gone to school from 6 to 10 years. And so they think that most of us have the necessary veterinary skills. So they're not worried so much about the skills. But I've always had this desire, what can I do that the guy or gal, veterinarian or staff down the road maybe isn't doing or providing? And so I tell my fellow college graduates, when you get out, sometimes we have very long days. Being older, a long day to me is I work at 8 in the morning at Carter till 6 at night. We get an hour off, but to me, that's a long day.
That's plenty enough.
And so anyway, I tell these graduates in my article here, say hi to the pet, compliment the client on the pet. Sometimes maybe it is more difficult to give a compliment if the pet is growling or trying to bite you. Mm-hmm. And I've had some pets that are so badly matted, I can't see the skin or the face or their ears or anything like that. So maybe in those cases, it might be a little more difficult to give a compliment. But a lot of the times that I have talked to clients and they say that, often I go into the veterinarian and they kind of behave like I'm a nuisance or I'm a burden, and I just try to tell these students and now new veterinarians, the pet owner doesn't care if you have a bad day. They made an effort and maybe they had to sacrifice their time to come in when it's scheduled for them, and maybe the pet is sick. And, is the pet going to live? How expensive is it going to be? I mean, veterinary costs have gone up quite a bit. And down the road, I'm going to talk about pet insurance, one way to kind of help with the cost.
Okay.
But anyway, when I go in the room, I compliment them. I ask questions. How's the pet doing? And, nobody wants to be rushed. When I go to my doctor, now I see a concierge doctor, and so I pay a little extra, but I can spend an hour and a half with my doctor. But a lot of times you see like if I go to my orthopedic guy, I'm in for 10 minutes, and I often feel kind of rushed. I have enough knowledge to be dangerous, and sometimes they have medical questions, and the doctor doesn't always have time to do that. But the joke I often say is that so many of the pet owners have become my friends that a lot of times we'll catch up on small talk and gossip. And most appointments I have are 30 minutes. And after 20 minutes or so, I'll look at oh my God, we've been talking for 20 minutes. I only have 10 minutes left to look at the pet. And so that's kind of the joke. But I think many of my pet owners do enjoy something of that sort.
Okay.
And then I did read another article that when you try to bond with the pet or want them to keep coming back, 10% of your technical skills and 90% of your verbal and body language skills are what drives the client or pet owner to come back the next time.
Okay. So when you're speaking friendly and open conversation, you also present yourself the same way.
You just want to know what the pet owner is doing, what they're interested in. And I think a lot of times, and I'm still kind of bad at it, a lot of times I start talking too much, and you need to really listen. Listening skills just aren't what they used to be. Mm-hmm. We hear somebody talk on TV or whatever, and we want to interrupt and give our opinion and that type of thing. And I think it's very, very important. These pets are part of the family, and we all need to do a better job of listening. What exactly is the pet owner concerned about? And then the joke sometimes is that the pet owners want to come in, or maybe after the exam or whatever is done, and they want to show me a trick. And so they show me how the dog can sit.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll put a biscuit on the nose, and they train the dog not to eat the biscuit until they give a command. And of course they're all tickled, and I'm kind of laughing and smiling. And of course I hadn't seen that trick since the day before. Mm-hmm. I've seen it fairly often. Mm-hmm. But I laugh and smile because that's why they're seeing me. They just care so much, enjoy to be with their pet, and they want to show the skills of their pet.
All right.
And so some time ago, and this is a fairly short article, but there's not a doctor, Mr. Bill McClellan, and he is a reporter still with the Post-Dispatch with St. Louis.
Okay.
And many years ago, he wrote an article, and he was kind of comparing veterinarians with medical doctors. And so there was a doctor, this is a veterinarian, Dr. R.J. Patterson, provided this article many years ago, and of course with Mr. McClellan being a local reporter and all that, and just the article he wrote, it was pretty neat. So here we go. And in his words, as a fervent believer in the yin-yang theory of life, I enjoy observing the similarities of seemingly similar things. In this case, doctors, veterinarians.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have a pet, you probably think that doctors and vets have a lot in common, but they're actually as different as globe-trotting mayors and hard-hat judges. Last week, my dogs and I both had to visit our respective medicine men. When I took the dogs into the vet's office, the peacocks enjoy this article too. When I took the dogs into the vet's office, the receptionist made a big deal over them. She either remembered their names or she took the time to look their names up before we arrived. "Oh, George, Tia," she says. And the veterinarian was actually pretty friendly too. He petted the dogs and said soothing things to them. "George is a good dog. Tia's a pretty girl," he said. He remembered the problem we had before with an ear infection, and so he asked me, he was concerned, did that ear problem resolve? And the doctor came in right away. We didn't have to wait at all. But things were different when Mr. McClellan went to his human doctor. The receptionist didn't remember me, and she wasn't really very friendly. "Do you have your insurance card?" she said. I gave her my card and settled in for a long wait. Unlike veterinarians, doctors are never on time. "I will always make my patients wait" is probably the first thing in the Hippocratic Oath with the human doctors. So when the doctor finally decided to come in, he didn't say soothing things. He said, "Which knee is bothering you?" And Mr. McClellan said, "Well, it was the same one that was bothering me the last time I saw you." And the doctor said, he kind of felt that was like a smart aleck comment, so he checked the record impatiently and said, "Okay, that would be the left knee." And then Mr. McClellan was thinking, and this is for the older folks that are watching this, but he was thinking about Marcus Welby, Dr. Kildare, and the doctors at the medical center. And these were medical stories, TV shows in the 60s and early 70s. Mm-hmm. And often these doctors really got involved with the people. It was more than a 30-minute appointment. But he went on how those doctors on the TV shows were so involved in their patients' lives. And then Mr. McClellan said, "Well, I think my problems go beyond my knee, Doc. I think sometimes my life is a mess. Depending on your insurance, I may be able to refer you to a psychologist," the doctor said. And I told him I was just kidding. He described a couple of exercises I could do to strengthen my knee, and then he sent me on my way. A couple days later, Mr. McClellan called the veterinarian. When he called, they said, "Well, is something wrong with Tia's ear?" "No, Tia's fine." "Is something wrong with George?" "No, he's fine too." "What's the problem?" said the veterinarian as they're talking on the phone. And Mr. McClellan said, "Well, I know this is unusual, but I've got this pain in my left knee." So the joke was he thought, well, I feel comfortable enough. I'm just going to get another opinion and talk to the veterinarian on the knee.
Yeah.
And I have had some clients in the past that were, comfortable with me that they wanted, if they had any health issues, could they come and see me? Of course, I said graciously no. I know the limitations of my health care. But anyway, that was just a good feel article many years when I read that. And I just want to let people know that, again, especially myself, and I'm trying to get more veterinarians, let's be interested in the client. Let's not walk in, ask what the problem is, and, just deal with the medical issues. So, So that was kind of the point I'm trying to make. And again, I thought the story was pretty good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Oh, me personally, I don't have a dog or a cat. I do plan to own one later down the years, but my mother has diabetes, and oftentimes I take her to the hospital, and I just see, it seems like it's just an assembly line.
Yep.
Almost, where patients are going in, they're waiting forever, obviously,
right.
and then once they go in, not more than 10 minutes, they're back out.
Right.
And
right.
Whenever my mother speaks with the nurses, or the doctors tend to be more caring, but as for nurses, it seems like they're, for us, we're just another file name to them.
Yep.
So that's, I guess, in major cities when the population is more, they're maybe just trying to get on to the next appointment, perhaps. But it seems like they are definitely lacking in the being empathetic and being a little bit more caring to the patient themselves. So, yeah, I totally agree that with that. But maybe I would find out in a couple years what a vet would be like. But so far, I am hearing from you.
Yep.
It's all positive, positive feedback and reactions. So I guess that article holds true, right?
Well, I find it kind of a challenge because some of my veterinarians that I work with and talk to, sometimes they really don't want to talk to people, and then I kind of wonder. I don't ask them, but I wonder, well why did you get in this?
Mm-hmm.
You get the idea you just work with animals, but I always tease who pays the bills.
Yeah.
So it's definitely dealing with people, and you want to answer their questions and that type of thing. So I see it as a challenge, and hopefully most people, when they bring their pets to their veterinarian, have a good experience.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that, again, just trying to pass on to people. We'll talk about medical things down the road, but they're just like any occupation. There's a lot of different aspects, and I just wanted to, at least part of tonight, this afternoon, just concentrate on the service to pet owners.
Yeah. Well, later in this episode, we'll definitely touch up on some questions that the internet has for you,
Okay.
as well as give a little bit of a comparison, kind of perhaps maybe debunking some myths or hear your thoughts on some hot takes. But that will be later on in the episode.
Okay.
But going back to touching up on the article a little bit. So you said always be overly nice or super nice to anybody that walks in through the door.
Right.
How would you say? What advice would you give to? Would they still be nurses if they're not direct vets?
Are you talking like our assistants?
Yeah,
I mean, we have receptionists, of course, at the front.
Okay.
And then we have veterinary technicians.
Technicians.
Been trying to change in recent years to have the veterinary technicians be called veterinary nurses.
Yeah.
And I may be wrong in this, but I think that there was some contention or disagreement by the human nurses on that.
Oh, really?
And I don't
looping
see
them in the same category?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then often the veterinary technicians have gone to have gotten an education. It's a 2-year program.
Yeah.
We also have veterinary assistants that have gone to 6-month programs, so they don't quite get as much knowledge, but those are kind of the two types of assistants that usually are with me in the room.
Maybe they're afraid of a little competition.
Could be.
But yeah, touching back on it, so what advice would you give the veterinary techs when they first approach the pet or the patient, we'll call them, and they become, upon first interaction, they're super aggressive or they bite, when you first touch them, and how would you suggest that they should handle it?
Well, I usually ask the pet owner, have them ask the pet owner, do we need to put a muzzle on the pet? In the last 5 or 6 years, we've gotten very much more aggressive in having people give anti-anxiety, maybe sedative medications to the pet before they bring him in if they have a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
And so a lot of times we try to have, often the veterinary assistants and technicians are in there before I get in there, and I tell them, go ahead and give them a little cheese or a little peanut butter.
Gotcha.
A little positive reinforcement before we jump
bribe.
all over them.
Yeah, a little bribe to say, hey, we don't mean harm. We're friendly.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Then let's see. Then in the comparison between humans and pets in terms of the vet versus doctor, when you go and say you need to visit the doctor, right? Do you come with the same overly friendly attitude as a patient versus, when you are dealing with another patient as a doctor to the human doctors? I don't know. That might be a little confusing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You're going to have to repeat the question.
So, do you still come with the same sort of mentality of like, oh, I need to be over friendly with my doctor? So
when I'm the patient?
When you're the patient,
with the human doctor.
Yeah, so that way maybe they have a little change of heart, or they don't view you as just another file, perhaps.
I do try to engage. I mean, I do try to make the effort. How is their day going? Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if it's right or wrong, or if it upsets them at all. But often I tell them I'm a veterinarian, that I can emphasize with dealing with patients, and or maybe I'll tell a quick story just to kind of set the tone, just to kind of make
Yeah.
more of a lighter
Yeah.
type thing. Especially with my concierge doctor, I go in twice a year. It's usually an hour and a half, and they'll maybe take some blood work and get the exam and EKG and all that. And so, the one of the things that's always kind of tickled me is that in my own office, when I'm listening to an animal's heart, often the pet owner is talking to me when I'm listening to the heart. And I never could figure out, well, why are you doing that? Don't you understand I'm trying to listen to the heart?
Yeah.
And so I've asked my own human doctor, how do you do that? Because he gets the same thing. And what he does, he keeps nodding his head like he agrees. And I'm thinking, well, that just encourages him to talk to you more.
Yeah.
So I got a big laugh out of that. So I try to look for some connections that maybe we have, common things that pet owners or people as patients do, and try to see if we're kind of on the same page with all that.
We're all humans in the end of the day, right?
Right.
So there shouldn't be any indifference for that aspect.
And also I try to bring some questions, because a lot of times I get frustrated that people come in and they can't remember what type of dog food that was on, what medications the pet's on, and that type of thing. And so I try to make an effort, because I find that kind of a challenge. Maybe I can help my own human doctor as well as myself if I have a list of my medications and what things that maybe have been going on that I need to talk. Because sometimes human doctors, even me, I mean, they intimidate me a little bit, and sometimes, shoot, when I leave, I forgot to ask him this or that, so when I have the question. So I try to be prepared and try to answer their questions too on any kind of medical history.
Okay. Do you get some sort of kind of like an egotistical battle whenever you bring up that you are also a doctor?
Well, I worry about that, and they don't have to worry, because I've learned very quickly that I take care of the animals and you take care of the humans.
Okay. So there's that separation.
Yeah. So I try to make it clear to them.
Without overstepping.
I have respect for your abilities, and you don't have to worry about interfering, or that I'm going to interfere or second guess your diagnosis, or,
Gotcha.
or your plan of doing this test or that test.
Yeah, because my experience, not directly, indirectly, from friends and relatives, that when they pre-diagnose themselves before going into the doctor, the doctors tend to have a little slight change of tone, just because I'm assuming they're thinking like, well, you're just looking it up on Google or looking it up on the internet, chances are you're not going to really listen to me that well, or you're just going to keep blabbling on. I'm like, well, I found this in this research and this called me, so I have blank. Cool. All right. So you mentioned something earlier when about giving a sedative or some sort of medication before pets come in. And one key thing that I took note of is that you mentioned that it was because of anxiety. Upon first thought, I would have think it's just pure aggressiveness, right? So that kind of leads me to the subject of the day of like, what do we really know about what the pets are thinking? Like, how do you know it's anxiety, and how do you differentiate when it is anxiety versus when it's aggressiveness?
Well, I think that 95% of the time, aggressiveness comes from being anxious.
Okay.
I don't think dogs and cats have anger. I have so many cat owners that come in, the cat's not using the litter box, this is an example, and the client, the pet owner, says that, well, the cat is upset with me because I didn't feed it enough food, or I didn't do this or that, and that's why. And I don't think cats have that in there. If it's something you did wrong, it's probably because you didn't clean the litter box enough for the cat. Doing it once a week usually is not enough for most cats.
Yeah.
Cleaning the litter box.
Cats are generally more cleaner than they think they want to be.
But again, in general, when the animals come in, and I don't take it personally when they come in and they're very aggressive because they're just truly anxious. Sometimes we have to do rectal exams like with people. We have to take blood. We give vaccinations. We do things that are discomforting, or what they're not used to, or they find very negative, because they do remember enough that they will retain that knowledge and just come in, and they're, or maybe they get to the front door. I've had some clients say that they're a couple miles from the animal hospital, they take a left or a right, and the animal knows right then. They're not going to the groomer. They're not going to the park. They're going to the vet type of thing.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why I concentrate when they come in, let's give them a little bit of food, because I have had some dogs come in and they're looking for food right away because they remember the last time they were there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes me feel good that we're on the right track of trying to do something positive instead of just jumping on them and start, opening their mouth, looking in their ears.
Yeah.
Just kind of give them a few positive little things and get down to their level. I feel like it's very intimidating to dogs when I'm let's say it's a large dog, 60 pounds or so, it's on the floor sitting, and I kind of stoop over him, but that is often very intimidating to many dogs when you do that. Actually, I should sit on the floor on a stool and face the dog, or maybe even face the side of the dog and not look them directly in the eye, because I think that's another.
Oh, they'll take that as
right,
okay.
Right.
Okay. Like
so
you're squaring up with them.
Position, how we handle the animal.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. So they're smarter than you would think. And
they're just very well. Yes, they're very well conditioned. They do remember, if something bad,
any negative and positive,
or at least they look at it upon negative. So what can we do? And we keep trying to improve on that. And again, the medications, I think, sometimes does a very good job of alleviating the anxiety, so it's not quite so dramatic to the pet owners. I do find it a challenge. Sometimes pet owners look at me and I don't want my pet sedated, but I can't give a good exam, if we don't sedate the pet or take the edge off. And so sometimes the people are a little challenging or frustrating to do it, because it's a relatively new thing, and I understand, they don't want anything given to their pet that's not necessary, but
safety first, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, then typically when a owner comes in, they schedule the appointment, and then when you first meet them, all they say is, "Oh, my pet's acting weird." What would that usually mean to you?
It gets my blood pressure up pretty high because they're not taking the time to, is it a vomiting problem? Is it not eating? What exactly, you have to help me, because we're just
help me help down. You. Yeah.
And then it frustrates me because sometimes my assistants or receptionists, when they take the appointment, they don't help me at all either. I'd like to have them kind of narrow it down so I can maybe spend less time asking questions and get more on the exam or taking the test or that type of thing. But
so if they could have done a little pre-diagnosis.
Right. Well, just more try to figure out what is the pet owner really concerned about.
Gotcha.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Or if it's like vaccinations, which vaccines do we do? Do you need more prevention to prevent heartworms, fleas, and ticks, and that type of thing?
Okay. So it's kind of like something's wrong with your car. You just go to the mechanic. Well, my car's broke.
Yep.
Then they're looking at you. Well, let's dive in a little deeper.
Right.
Or
is there a light on the dashboard that's maybe
anything
going
blanking
off,
on, or when you're braking, does the car shake violently? Or does anything like that?
Yep. Yeah. No, it's the same
so
thing.
It definitely helps.
Just trying to get a good history.
Yeah.
Because we just, as I always tease, we can't talk to the animals. I've tried for 44 years to talk to animals, and I've not gotten a response. Either I'm a slow learner, or I just keep hoping one day, an animal will respond. Because sometimes a teenage kid comes in, and maybe the teenage kid has been at college, and his mom said, "Bring the dog in." And of course, if he's been away from home, he knows nothing what's going on. So I can't ask the teenage kid. I can't ask the dog. So it gets difficult.
Kind of have your
if the pet
hands
is ill,
tied.
what do we need to do?
Yeah. So, well, they typically say, right, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master. Maybe to communicate with pets, it takes 10,000 years.
Yep.
Something like that.
Well, I think they need. I don't know exactly the details how to do it, but I think they need to do a better job at veterinary schools.
Okay.
I mean, just the 4 years of veterinary school, they crammed everything into it, and we didn't learn anything on business because 30% of veterinarians own their animal hospital, but they know nothing about it.
Okay, so in vet school they teach the technical learning.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
and pretty much nothing else, or skills. Do we need to take a speech skill, a class and learn how to deal with it,
Yeah.
or can I have a pet owner and fake questions, to kind of simulate a situation that I'm going to see quite often.
A little more hands-on.
Right, because you walk into the room and, I still remember the first week when I graduated from school and started working. I mean, I was intimidated. Do I have the right knowledge, let alone am I talking to people? It was just pretty overwhelming, and it really would have helped if I'd had more skills.
Yeah.
And they say that most veterinarians are introverted, so we're kind of have a back problem. We just have a problem already. Just
You don't want to communicate or do all those things.
Right.
Yeah, that's tough.
So I think we need to do a better, be better educated on that.
I think that's just, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I think it's just general education, just universities in general. Like, they don't teach any, they only focus on the subject itself.
Yep.
It's nothing that surrounds the subject that.
Well, I feel like
crucial.
that even in high school, I think there's a lot of skills we could learn just in general for humans that I think you need to take a couple classes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have history and read all the classic books. That's important, but the vast majority of the time you're dealing with humans.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think a lot more needs to be done to
Some would
just
say
make us better people, whatever your knowledge or skills or career is going to be.
Some people say that that schools are just a factory that churns out workers, essentially. Okay. Well,
but it's a fascinating subject. I really enjoy talking about it because I think there's a lot of improvement. And maybe if you're seeing a veterinarian that's really quiet or not looking you in the eye or addressing your questions, it may not be so much that they're not happy to be with you, but they're just scared to pieces or just don't have the confidence just to talk to people. So just try to be patient.
Yeah, you just never know, right?
Or ask for an old guy like me because I've talked for a number of years. So.
Yeah. Don't go to any vet and start asking for Dr. Lange. They'll be like, who are you talking about? Well, if they are wondering, then you point them to the video, to the episode, so then they'll know who to contact, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
Let's go back to kind of reading pet behaviors and whatnot.
Yep.
What are some common misread behaviors that you would say is among pets?
Well, I think a lot of people don't have skills when, especially as a dog, and cats to a lesser extent, when is the pet really anxious? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, when the pet comes in the exam room, it's trying to find a place to hide. It will not give you any eye contact at all if it's anxious.
Yeah.
Usually their ears are down. They're just kind of slinking away. And it just, after a while, you kind of learn the skills of anxiety and that type of thing to pick up on it, and that potentially we may have some behavioral problems.
Okay. So then going back to the beginning, where if the pets even skip all those behaviors where they're like really, really to themselves, they just immediately go aggressive. What does that tell you?
A lot of animals are fine. With dogs, I always start at the front end. They say that it's less anxiety to a dog if you start at the front end of exam, but on cats, you want to start at the back end. But studies show that doing it different for each pet helps reduce the anxiety.
Okay.
But often the vast majority of pets, they're truly very, very anxious, but the vast majority will just sit there and just put up with it. They're so anxious they won't do anything.
They're just froze.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. That's exactly it.
Gotcha.
They're probably thinking, okay, do whatever you need to do, but the minute you pull away, I'm out of here type of thing. And there are some, I start examining, they're doing okay, but as I get more intrusive or maybe start squeezing on their belly, then often they'll start to growl, and then either we need to come back another time with anxiety medicine, or in most cases we'll try a muzzle, a bit like a basket muzzle, has more room, or a tight muzzle over their muzzle.
Okay.
So it just prevents, for our safety, just prevents us from getting bit. And we usually have an assistant in the room because there have been some times where the medical person, whether the doctor or the assistant, has gotten bit pretty bad.
Oh, wow.
And our insurance for bite wounds is sky high. So to help our costs for paying the premiums for medical insurance
Yeah.
for bite wounds especially is we need to reduce. And so we're just trying to find ways to count on that. And of course, then people can't work for a while. And so then we're, decreased staff members as well. So it's we're trying to look out for the welfare of the dog, but we have to be careful with the staff as well.
Oftentimes I go on social media and I see these videos of taking their pets to the vet visits, and correct me if I'm wrong, but would it be I think it would be a good thing, right? Whenever it seems like the pets are behaving but they're frozen, that giving them positive reinforcement, like, oh, that's a good dog, or good boy, good girl.
No, soothing is that, and they may not take it, but to offer a treat.
Yeah. Okay. So that signals to the pets that what they're doing is proper, or
that's correct.
That's what they should be doing.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I think me being on this podcast with you, down the line, I'm going to become an expert and I know exactly what to do. But chances are, I may be calling you too, a lot more than you think.
Well, I tease my assistant on the radio show on Sundays from 2 to 3. I'm on KTRS radio. It's 5:50 a.m. And I've done it for 2.5 years now. And my assistant feels that he should get a degree in veterinary medicine because he's
because
doing
of all
what
the
you're doing,
conversations,
kind of helping.
Yeah.
We'll have conversation, and so he feels like he's a pretty educated person.
Yeah.
So Calvin, maybe one time we will give you a degree as well.
A degree by association. We'll have to add that part because I don't want to carry that hefty of a title. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next. My next question that I have on here is, how different is communication between a cat versus a dog whenever dealing with them in the operating room or in the room?
We always make the kind of indirectly answering your question. There's always a comparison. Are cats or dogs more intelligent? And I don't think there's any. They're more intelligent with different aspects of it. But I think cats are less tolerant of being handled. They like to have their day the same every day, fed the same, availability to go outside if they're an outdoor cat, make sure their litter box is clean and that type of thing. So I think it's a little more challenging to try to provide the same routine when you're in a veterinary exam office trying to look a cat over.
Okay. So to go back to the very first episode, then the behavior is different because cats are like, please, I need to be taken care of. So do what anything necessary.
Dogs to me were bred, they're more truly man's best friend because through the centuries they were bred to haul the little trailer, for farmers.
Yeah.
To the sheep dogs and some of the retrievers to keep the sheep together. And so dogs have learned to be with their humans much more than cats. Cats are much more independent.
Yeah.
You can train a cat, but their attention span is very, very brief. And so you have to keep repeating, if you're trying to do a little trick or something. And cats are not bred, or to me were raised to please us humans.
Yeah. Cats can't haul a trailer.
Yeah, right. They have no desire to help you. I think their desire, and I say it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but their desire is to be helped.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be taken care of, but I feel like dogs, it kind of goes both ways of helping each other. But the cats, they're just not bred for that kind of thing.
Oh, I would love to have a cat that has the tendencies and the behavior of a dog. I think that might be the perfect mix.
Yep.
Because sometimes. I heard that Shiba Inus, they're more independent, but I would like that like sometimes it's a little overwhelming to certain people that the dog's always wanting the attention from the owner.
Right.
But to me, I think it's got to be a balance, a little bit of over attention and then a little bit of separation and independent. Because I think separation anxiety is a big thing.
We see it more and
in
more,
pets.
and it got worse after COVID with the separation anxiety
Yeah.
because we just became overwhelmed in the veterinary field with COVID because people said, well, the kids are at home. What are we going to do to entertain them? And often the conclusion was to get a dog.
Throw things at the kids
Right,
to
right.
get them distracted. Okay.
And so humans were around the dogs for the most part during COVID. People worked at home. The kids, for the most part, were at home from school. And the dogs had somebody all the time. And then all of a sudden, a year and a half, 2 years after COVID, most people started, the kids went back to school. People, if they had the job, they were out of the house. And the poor dogs, they didn't know what to make of it. So we saw a lot of separation anxiety.
Because they're with the kids 24/7.
Because, yeah, there was humans all, and then all of a sudden they're by themselves. Now, some dogs didn't mind it at all, and they all have their different personalities, but some dogs just have such contact with humans, and that's the way they were kind of raised for 2 years,
Yeah.
being raised with humans, and now all of a sudden they're by themselves, and it truly caused a lot of separation anxiety. So in recent years, we've seen a lot more of that type of anxiety.
So then the dogs or the pets wouldn't necessarily pick up, oh, it's a pandemic.
No.
there's
My
a
humans
lockdown.
were with me all the time.
Yeah.
This is the
The
best
best
thing
thing-
ever.
Total
They don't
opposite
go anywhere.
then. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there is that drastic
So,
change.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's kind of shift the pace here and talk about, since you're at the clinic 2 days out of the week.
Yep.
Is there any interesting cases that have come up since we've last had the episode?
Well, I kind of like the fun ones. A week ago, I didn't pay any attention. Usually, again, they kind of give me a little history, my assistants or the receptionist, and I was a little behind, so I just grabbed the file and walked right in the room, and there was a 9-month-old puppy running around the room and had a fish hook stuck in its lip.
Oh my gosh.
And the puppy what am I doing here? I feel fine.
Oh no.
Of course, the pet owners are kind of freaking out.
They're freaking out, yeah.
It's what do I do?
Mhm.
And as fisher people may know, and I'm not a big fisher person, but I pulled enough fish hooks out of animals that there's a pretty good barb under the skin, and most of the time you can't just pull it out.
You got to pull through.
You have to
poke
push it through a little
first.
bit and cut the barb off.
Yeah.
And in many cases, the dogs, in the case you have had a cat, will not tolerate that, so we usually need to knock them out with anesthetic to do
okay.
it.
Okay.
But it was just so funny because I guess it's part of living. I got a fish hook stuck in my.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
it's just a piercing to them, right? Or they got
But it
tagged.
didn't seem to be painful or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of neat because I knew, again, I just couldn't pull it out. But it turned out that we put a gas mask on it, and in 4 minutes, the pet was snoring, for lack of a better word. And actually, in this case, the barb was so superficial, I was able just to pull it out. I didn't have to cut the barb tip.
Okay.
We were able to get the fish hook out
Yeah.
quite easily. And with gas anesthetic, in 10 minutes, it was pretty much back to
Yeah.
normal. And it was intriguing on this case because most of the time people will say the pet got hold of the fish hook because, oh my God, there's that juicy worm. Or there was part of the fish smell or something on it, or whatever bait the fisher person was using attracted the dog, and that's why they grabbed the fish hook. Well, in this case, the fish hook was just laying on the floor or the table. There was
Oh, it
nothing
wasn't
on
even
it.
a fishing trip or anything like that. Oh my!
And
I was
so I don't
expecting a fishing story.
Right. Well, maybe we'll have to tell the story differently.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think maybe it was because it was shiny, or the puppy was still young enough, like a baby, it's going to put everything in its mouth to kind of see what's going on. So, but in this, there was not any food to entice it, so it was kind of intriguing or interesting. It was just saying there, but I know this is more cats, but I think the curiosity got the best of the puppy in this case.
I was gonna mention, yeah, cats have that. Seagulls have that shiny object syndrome.
Yep.
Do dogs have that as well?
They do. I think it's more cats, in my opinion,
More cats?
that are kind of intrigued with something shiny
Yeah.
than the dogs are. But
Shiny and moving around
right,
really subtly.
you're exactly right. The
Right.
movement, especially with
Okay.
cats, because it stimulates a prey, and cats are more predatory, chasing the mouse or rat or whatever type
Okay.
thing. So
What's the most stimulating for dogs then? Is that sound?
Food probably.
Great answer. Great answer.
They're part of the human family, so
Yeah.
like myself, food is the main
Love to indulge.
stimulation.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So that was just a no big deal. Just your average case.
It wasn't. I've had a couple interesting cases that this may be too much information, but a dog came in to saw one of their doctors a couple weeks ago, and it was bleeding from the vaginal area. It wasn't passing blood with the urine. It seemed to be independent of it. And it was a spayed female. It was 11 years old. And they tried some antibiotics, and it wasn't getting any better. And so I really looked the dog over when I saw it. The other doctor was off for the day that had seen it originally. And I just couldn't pinpoint anything. And I said, we really need to do x-rays or do an ultrasound, but an exam just wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when a female dog is in heat, they will have vaginal bleeding or dripping blood. Usually this lasts anywhere from 10 to 14 days, and this is twice a year. Well, the intriguing thing was the pet was 11 years old. The people had rescued it and had it for 9 years, and it had never had any evidence of bleeding.
Okay.
And usually when a female is in heat, the vaginal area becomes very, very enlarged, and it just was completely normal on this 11-year-old female dog.
Yeah.
Well, actually just a couple days ago, I got the ultrasound results, and the radiologist who read the ultrasound, the veterinary radiologist, said they thought that there was a remnant of the ovary, that when the pet was spayed, they have two ovaries and then a Y-shaped uterus, and we removed the Y-shaped uterus as well as the ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you remove the ovaries, it does not secrete any estrogen. The female dog will never go into heat again,
mm-hmm.
because you've removed the hormones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was perplexing was, if there was still part of the ovary in there, yes, it would cause the bleeding, but why didn't the dog have any heat periods before?
Wow.
And the vaginal area looked normal. And it was intriguing because I had a very educated pet owner when I told her that it seemed like there was part of the ovary still in, and the way to treat that is we may have to go back in and remove that remnant. But she wanted to know, well, why didn't it have heat periods before?
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, because I have had dogs in the past when they've had the remnant, they have had heat periods. Well, the dog was spayed. Well, it turned out in those cases the remnant was present, and that's what caused it. But I'm a little at loss, and so I need to call a couple specialists and just kind of get their thoughts.
Yeah.
Do we go in surgically and just see removing the remnant will take care of it?
Is this still ongoing?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, the good news is the pet is doing perfectly fine. Otherwise, everything, it's eating fine. For an 11-year-old dog, it's acting great.
Okay.
But it's trying to get to the bottom of why are we bleeding vaginally. And, the people were kind of alarmed, of course, rightfully so, with it.
Mm-hmm. Did the owner tell you of any first signs of, like, oh, my dog is acting weird? Was there anything like that?
No, they said the dog, again, when I had seen it and reading the other doctor's notes, the dog has been perfectly fine until probably the last 3 weeks.
All of a sudden, it's just started bleeding.
Just the sudden onset of bleeding, and everything else was fine. Well, at first we thought maybe it was, the problem is, is the blood coming from the bladder, or is it coming from the uterus if it's not been spayed? And so we did a urinalysis and did find some blood, so that's why we treated it at first, thinking, well, maybe it was just a bladder infection.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not a bladder issue. But other than the bleeding, there have been no other concerns initially when it started, and since the problem's been going on.
So then, in this case, that it's not something that you can pick up early on. It's
if
when
it
you
had
see the
heat
blood.
periods 9 years ago, yes, then we would have said something's going on.
Yeah.
If the dog had been spayed, but still having bleeding, and the vaginal area was enlarged and engorged and all that, then we would know for sure that was the case. But this was just a sudden onset, and the husband and wife, they were in the room and they were just racking their brains. I mean, they're very concerned with the pet.
Of course.
And they were going back and forth. Did the dog eat something? Did it get into rat poison? They just went around and around, and they were very, very thorough. Not able to pinpoint anything else.
So there's nothing that we could do that you could have done or the owners could have done to prevent it early on.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. Not in this case, no.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, interesting. So, is it predicted that in a couple weeks that the dog will be fine, or
Well, does the dog go out of heat? Like I said, usually after 3 weeks of
3 weeks?
bleeding, they're out of heat, and another 6 months, they're perfectly normal hormone-wise, so to
Okay.
speak.
And are they
And
opting?
so that was one option. Well, to just hang a little bit longer. I mean, the dog has not lost enough blood. It's not anemic. We did some blood tests, and it's not lost enough blood where, oh my gosh, we've got to give it a blood transfusion or something like that. It's not weak or anything. So
Okay.
I think right now they're just going to give a little bit more time
Before deciding
and
surgery or
see
anything?
if it just kind of resolves on its own.
Yeah.
And they're probably a little nervous. You got an 11-year-old medium-sized breed. It could be a little bit more of a risk for the anesthesia to do, and so that's
Gotcha.
what they're encountering as well.
Oh, that's a tough decision to make.
So yeah,
then.
it makes it a little bit more difficult what to do. I mean, the good news is the dog is quite stable, so we have time to kind of see if we can figure, do we do anything differently, type of thing. You know, sometimes we run into emergencies and we got to make a decision. Well, you know, let's say it's a 13-year-old dog and it's bleeding in the abdomen. You know, do we go in and see what we can do, or do we throw in the towel and just euthanize the pet? The pet owners have to make a decision right then.
Yeah. And it's
And
even
so that
harder
makes
then.
it very difficult because
Yeah.
sometimes they'll second guess themselves, but you know, in this case, we can kind of talk. And I said, just give me a call back. And usually I tease, I have my little black book. I usually call people back and just see what's going on, or did they have any more ideas? And again, to show my care, but I just want to make sure, is there something else that I missed or maybe didn't answer their questions? And that type of
Gotcha.
thing.
Okay.
So those are a couple cases in the
Yeah.
last week or so that we've run into.
Okay. Because I was gonna say the fish hook was pretty obvious.
Yep.
There was no
Yep.
early signs right
Or
there.
a lot of people bring the dog in because it's got a growth or a tumor, so you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's deciding what do we do with it.
Okay. And here we have some friends.
Yes,
Approaching
Sonny and
us.
Cher are geese.
Sonny and Cher.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And for those younger people, you may not know, but you know they were a couple that played in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Sonny and Cher,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And my wife is, she knows about every song in the 70s. Of course, one time we went to a trivial thing, and there was thing of music in the 60s and 70s, and I don't know, she didn't do a very good job.
How long have you had them?
We've probably had them 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8
now,
months.
so.
Oh, okay.
And mom is starting to lay eggs, so I don't know
Oh.
if they've been fertilized, but.
Gotcha.
But unfortunately, Sonny has not been the most pleasant. He will attack people. And we kind of have a reputation when some of the travel people drop packages off.
Yeah.
They know they can give a biscuit to the dog. We do have an invisible fence, so the dogs, you know, couldn't get on the road.
What can
But
you
they
do
know
to bribe
down the
them?
gooses, if we know something's coming, like the repairman or something, we'll put them in a little fenced
Oh, okay.
in area.
Okay.
But they do have a reputation. Don't mess with the goose.
Yeah. Is there anything that we could do to bribe them whenever you come
No.
across? No.
No. And actually, I've kicked them a few times. Most of the time I haven't touched them, but Sonny doesn't seem to have much thought.
Yeah.
That okay, I got hit or got close to it.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't do it. He's not doing a very good job of responding.
Doesn't get phased about
No.
it. Okay.
And geese, I think maybe we've had geese before, and most of them are just so good. You know, they'll be around. They want to be around you all the time. But I think geese in general do kind of have a reputation, and maybe because the female is laying eggs, you know, maybe he's become more aggressive
Okay.
with it. But
Well, to stay on topic of, what your pet wishes you knew, what kind of behavior are they giving off right now, would you say?
I think it's just curiosity.
Curiosity?
Yeah. What's
Okay.
the deal? What's going
Okay.
on?
They're not
We
like
haven't seen
squaring
this
up
kind
with
of
us. Like,
apparatus type thing.
yeah.
Yes. So yes, I think it's curiosity. And
Okay.
should we get closer or not? You know,
Yeah.
they're not sure.
Kind
I
of
know.
just testing the waters.
Exactly.
Well,
Hi,
it
Sonny.
seems like they're
It's okay,
interested.
Sonny. Yep.
And that's that's the whole reason why we're out here, is so that we can let random animals come
Right,
across the
right.
screen, something a little
Yes,
topical.
I'll
to
probably
talk
jinx
about.
ourselves, but so far the peacocks have been kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And so maybe we're starting to get out of mating season a little bit, but we had some fireworks going on earlier today, and so they have been a little jumpy
Okay.
type thing, and any unusual noise will set them off a little bit. So
Okay.
the next couple of weeks are probably not going to be too pleasant for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
peacocks or
Yeah.
the horse. Even one of our dogs, Frankie, that was making all the racket last time, the little
Mm-hmm.
terrier, we have to give medication for the fireworks.
Oh, okay. Because even if they're inside the house, it's not enough.
Yeah, they can hear it. You know, we try to turn on the TV or try to make so much sound, and sometimes if they're in a localized area in the house,
Yeah.
they'll do better. But
Yeah.
it seems maybe it's because I'm getting older, but every year it's like the boomers are getting louder and louder, or July 4th is celebrated longer and
Longer and longer.
You know, in the good old days, you'd maybe celebrate with fireworks the day before, the day of,
Yeah.
maybe the day after. But
Yeah.
now it seems like we're kind of extending the holiday a little bit.
I mean, I live closer towards the city
Yeah.
of St. Louis, and I heard fireworks last week.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's
And
a
I was
little
trying to
too
think, well,
early.
is it you know, maybe it isn't July 4th. Maybe it's another holiday.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, well, maybe they're practicing.
Practicing, yeah, getting ready for the big event. Sure. Let's move on to some questions that I have
Sure.
compiled from the internet. And again, if you would like to have your questions answered, this is the segment that we often would answer them. Feel free to email. The links will be, or the email address will be down in the description. We have that set up already. So if you have any questions, would you tell them, ask them to be as detailed as possible? 'Cause you might get an essay.
Well, just so I can do better answer their question.
Okay.
That's why when on the radio show, older people will call and the younger people text. And the problem I have with the text is that maybe I have more questions
Yeah.
when they text or with an email. Or so I may, if it's okay, I may email back to get
Yeah.
more information. But the more information they can give me, then the better off I can answer
Okay.
their questions. And again, I haven't seen the pet. I'm giving more my opinion. I'm not saying I have the expertise.
Yep. Exactly. Listen to them. Yeah. Phone in.
Well, they want to give their 2 cents worth as
Yeah.
well. But I'm happy to talk to people with my experience. I'm happy to
Okay.
give my thoughts if
Okay.
they have some questions or a behavioral question or something of that sort.
Yeah. So don't write a novel sending it in, but be thorough in your questions.
Just try to
Give
be
a little bit
concise as
of
best you can.
concise. Give a little bit of background leading up to the symptoms or what other general questions that you
Right.
have. The more information, the better, so that
Yep.
way he can give you proper advice. But disclaimer that we don't have the case directly in front of us. We can't run tests or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
So this is just general
Yep, just general
opinions,
information.
just general information.
And I just like to let people know this is my passion because I'm semi-retired. This is what I love to do.
That's right.
Because every day I'm reading articles, and because writing the book, I have to look up stuff. So I feel like I'm at the peak of my knowledge
Okay.
right now. And with the radio show and with the podcast, I
Yeah.
like to read up on things so I can try to prevent
Yeah.
fairly knowledgeable and accurate information.
Okay. So the only two avenues so far of connecting with us is either leaving a comment down below or sending your email to the address that I have in the description. So the first question is it okay to let my dog sleep in my bed every night? What's your take on that?
I'm only laughing because I hear that all the time. And to start answering the question, I tell a puppy owner when they come in, you have to make a decision right now. Either the puppy stays in a cage or carrier or another room overnight, or if you decide to have the puppy in the bed, now it's the way it's going to be. You can't, for the most part, you can't
juggle
change
back
your
and forth.
mind.
Oh, okay.
You got to do one way or the other because the pets love being in the bed with their owner. And it's very comforting to them, and especially like if there is a storm. Last night in this neck of the woods, we had quite a bit of noise, and both dogs were in the bed with me. My wife was out of town right now, and it was comforting just to be close to me.
Okay, so it's either keep him in the cage or not.
Right. But I just think it'll be a lot easier for everybody if you set the record straight for your pet one way or the other.
Okay.
I have problem with my pets overnight sleeping with them because either I move too much or they move too much, and so I do not like the pets in there. And we have Lizzie, our cat, and Lizzie always wants to get in between my legs
For warmth,
extra
right?
warmth.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And I just I move too much at night to do that.
Yeah.
So I personally don't like it, but I don't think it's going to cause any health issues one way or the other. I mean, I think the dogs love it, but you just have to go set right away what you're going to want to do because
From the
it'll be very
beginning.
difficult to reverse it.
Okay. That's good to know. Then my next question is also I was going to ask because of the cat thing is My cat randomly attacks me after cuddling. Why? Why is that?
I don't know for sure, but I think part of it could just be affection.
Over affection?
Right,
Okay.
right. The pet is just happy to be with you, and their way of showing, we'd like them to have the cat or dog kiss us on the cheek,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just not their way of affection.
Mm.
But sometimes the cats will take their paw and kind of throw it at you or try to bite,
Gnaw at you, yeah.
and that is affection.
Would that be an invite to be over affectionate?
Well, of course, most people don't like that, and so in the past, I've told people, well, if it's a fairly common behavior, do you take a water bottle and maybe spray the cat with water as kind of a negative repellent?
Mm-hmm.
Well, recently, a number of people that are in the fear-free sphere feel like that causes more anxiety for the cat.
Okay. And what's your opinion on that? It doesn't hurt, or it's a...
I mean, cats don't like getting wet, but
Of course.
my opinion, I don't think it's that traumatic.
Okay.
But it may make them think twice to get too close or try to bite or pet you.
Yeah.
Or either walk away. Even cats pick up that if you kind of walk away, something's not right. They don't want to play with me anymore. Maybe I shouldn't do that behavior
Okay.
anymore. But I definitely would not hit the cat. I think, I know it can be frustrating because a lot of times people come home and the cat's not using the litter box and they hit the cat. Well, the cat has no idea what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it didn't happen 5 minutes ago, they're not going to know. So you want to use subtle aggressive tendencies on your part.
Okay.
Hitting is not going to do anything, or yelling at the cat.
Gotcha. Okay. So there is... So then it's easy.
I don't take it as a bad thing, but
Yeah.
what can you do? Because it's not pleasant if you get scratched or get chewed on.
And it's not like they know
Right.
what the level of
I
pain would
do
be.
truly attribute it as an affection type of thing.
It is.
But
Okay.
that's their way of showing affection.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Then my next question would be, how do I know if my pet actually likes me or just likes me for my food?
That is very, very good.
It's hard to tell.
Yes, it is, and I wonder that every day. This may I'm teasing a little bit, but this may not be appropriate. But a couple weeks ago, I had this Great Pyrenees. The dog was 70 or 80 pounds, and when I came in the room, it immediately came around the exam table and jumped on me and actually gave me a hug. It had its two front
that's the best
paws around
feeling.
my neck,
Yeah.
and I thought, gosh, I have to tell this to the radio because I've never. Most dogs again either are kind of looking at you funny or they're hiding or anything like that. And here this dog comes in there and is just giving me a bear hug. And so I kind of pushed the dog down. We got to do this exam. And after I was done with the exam, the dog was still friendly, and the table still had separated us again. And it came around and did the same thing. Well, immediately when I got the bear hug, it started humping me. And so in this case, I don't think it was because the dog liked me, but not just
A little too much.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is very, very difficult, seriously, to know. I mean, I just, how do you ask a dog? Or I've not read studies that can specifically do it, but I think dogs do appreciate, especially what you do. I mean, I think cats do too, but they just don't show the affection that we would like to do.
When you first told me that the dog jumped on you and gave you a big old hug, I was just thinking like, please, you got to help me. Please, something's wrong.
I just got rescued. I don't like these people or something like that.
Yeah. They're trying to tell you something different. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I bet that was a great feeling to have that reassurance.
It was a great feeling initially until
obviously you
God, not again.
Yeah, you didn't give them food or anything, right?
The dog had not been neutered. It was a stray. We don't have any history until pet owners brought in. But he was, I guess he was probably maybe a year and a half old because he had all his permanent teeth in. But he was in his frisky stage.
Okay. Wow, cool, man. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for here. We're about the 1 hour mark. I was gonna go up to do another segment, but I think maybe we'll save that for the next episode.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you, Dr. Lange, for another episode of The Language of Pets.
Thanks for all your good questions. I appreciate you taking the
of course.
time to get those together. And
Of
again,
course.
my passion for servicing pet owners, I just think that's pretty neat. So.
Yeah. So if you like the episode, you like what you like what we have to offer, drop a comment down below. If you have any questions about your pets or just in veterinary in general, give us an email, comment below, like. I won't ask you to subscribe, but obviously that support will greatly help us into reaching a wider audience. Because I don't know if you know the statistics, but there's a large percentage of human population that have pets. Correct?
I believe in the United States, 2/3
2/3
of the U.S. have pets.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm sure there's a lot more
there's-
around the world.
Right.
Yeah, so
And I want to make it real clear, Calvin, that
Yeah.
I'm a small animal practitioner. I will not be able to help on equine or large animals,
Oh.
like farm animals.
so no T-Rexes
I had that knowledge
or
40 years ago, but somehow it leaked out when you don't use it every day.
Yeah.
But I also do what we call pocket pets. I
Okay.
do the rats, the mice, hamsters, guinea pigs, chinchillas, hedgehogs.
Okay.
So if people have what we call it, because they fit in your pocket, pretty
Yeah.
small,
Yeah.
and ferrets. But the pocket pets, I've had a lot of experience, enjoyed working with them. And so if people have a pocket pet, I'm happy to do that.
So smaller animals.
And birds and reptiles, again, I probably have not much help on that. So.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I'd love to talk to people about would be, again, more of the, I say small animals, companion animals that
Sure.
you have in your
Sure.
house probably.
Sure. All right. So yeah, small animals. Bring the questions on. If you ever have any questions about grizzly bears or you encountered one, don't contact
I will
us.
refer you.
Call animal control or the park ranger. Okay.
Exactly.
And we'll leave it at that. Thanks, Dr. Lange.
Thank you. That was good. That was good,
All right.
Kelvin.
That was a good ending, right?